Hello. The previous lesson we looked at the scale construction process. This lesson we will look at how to choose a validated scale from articles. Okay, the best option would be to use a validated scale in your questionnaire when you do research, because then you don't have the risk of constructs not working out and you cannot measure what you're supposed to measure. Then when you do your literature study, you can search for validated scale, or you can search for construct validation or exploratory factor analysis. The validation is done, the construct validation is done with exploratory factor analysis as a first step, as we said already, or confirmatory factor analysis. You look for exploratory factor analysis and the factor loadings. The factor loadings will give you the proof that the statements or the items loaded onto the factors. So that's what you're looking for. Just to remind you, if you can remember this rotated factor matrix, this is the factor loadings from the scale, the TAM scale. So there is the factor loadings we're looking for. So this item is loading on usefulness. All these items is loading on usefulness. All these items is loading on acceptance. All these items loading on ease of use. All these items loading on skills. So this item here is loading on usefulness, but not on the other ones. So, and what we're looking for is items that loads above 0.4. That's the minimum. So what we're getting here is all these items or statements loads onto usefulness. So in your questionnaire, you'll use all these statements as it is, exactly as it was asked here. You can maybe change some of the wording a little bit if it's in another context, but not much. You must use it as it is if possible. So the acceptance, you'll use this statements as is. So if you use this scale, for instance, to test usefulness, acceptance, ease of use, and skills, you'll use all these questions as it was validated with this loadings in your questionnaire as is. So like I said already, you use the statements as it was validated with the factor loadings above 0.4. What you can do is you can use different scales in one questionnaire. So say for instance, section A can be about technology acceptance, the 4 constructs of the technology acceptance scale. Then you can have another scale on, say, customer satisfaction, for instance, which is section C in your questionnaire. So you can incorporate different scales into one questionnaire, but you must use the scales as it was validated. If you combine constructs from different scales, say for instance, you have a scale on technology acceptance, but not all the constructs is in that scale that you need for your research, and there's another scale that have some of the constructs, then you can combine the constructs in your questionnaire, but then you must validate it again. But the advantage would be that it was already validated in a sense, so probably it will work out, but you must validate it again because it's a set. It's always validated as a set. So if it was validated with one factor analysis, you must use it as it is. If you want to say it's validated. If you use different factor analysis and you throw together the constructs, then you must validate again. What you must not do is mix your items. So say for instance you have a technology acceptance scale that's validated from one article. You have another technology acceptance scale that's validated from another article. In both articles, the ease of use construct was validated, but in the one article there was, say, 4 statements on it, and the other article there's 3 statements on it, and now you combine the 3 and the 4 statements into one construct. That will definitely not work. Don't do that. Because what happens is the statements is validated with the factor loadings to certain factors according to the rest of the statements in the factor structure. So you cannot mix it. Then when you use a validated scale, make sure there's at least 3 items per construct, because sometimes people validate it but there's not 3 items per construct. The minimum required is 3 items per construct in order to calculate the scale, and in structural equation modeling 3 is the minimum. There's references for that. When you have a validated scale that provides you with all the constructs that you need, say for instance technology acceptance, but there's one construct that you want to test or that you feel must be there, or that's your contribution, and there's nothing on it, so it's your own construct, then you use the existing technology acceptance constructs, for instance, if it's about technology acceptance, and then you put in your construct together with that. Make sure it has a minimum of 3 items. I would go between 4 and 6, because if one item is unreliable, you still have 3 left. And then you must validate it again with exploratory factor analysis, even the original validated constructs, because all of it is validated as a set of technology acceptance. But again, the advantage would be that you work with already validated constructs that will probably work out well in the factor analysis. And then you just test your part, as was shown in the previous example with the article about the skills. Let us just discuss this mixing of the scales, just to be sure that you could understand it thoroughly. Say you have a term scale, that's a term scale, from an article, so that's the first one. You have another term scale from another article. This term scale have 3 constructs A, B and C with factor loadings. There's 3 questions here loading, 3 questions there loading, 4 questions loading on C. Then this time scale have 3 different constructs here. This one loading 4 questions loading on D. This one 4 questions loading on F and 4 questions loading on E. So what you can do is, you can say if A, B and C is different constructs of the term scale here, you can use it in your questionnaire, and you can use, say if this is another construct that's not, this D is not the same as A, B and C, you can use it together with this ones. But what you must keep is, you must keep this questions here as is and this questions here as is. But then you must still revalidate, because now you're working with A, B, C and D, so you must revalidate this. What you cannot do is, you cannot go and see, say for instance there's a time scale here and it has the same constructs. Say this construct was, let me just take this out. Say this construct was also A, B and C, but now you have 4 items here, 4 items here, 4 items here. There's only 3 items. You cannot mix this B and this B here. You cannot mix this 2 and combine it and see and use B as validated in your questionnaire. That is not allowed, because this loadings here was validated as a set, and this loadings here was validated as a set, or this questions. So you cannot mix this here, you cannot mix the statements, but what you can do is you can take out one construct and use it. Then let us look at an example of an article from Malaysia. It's about innovation and the constructs on innovation, or there's a few scales on innovation that's validated in that article. It's not the full-scale construction process, but that's not necessary. As I said, what's necessary is at minimum exploratory factor analysis for construct validation and the Cronbach alpha for the reliability of the items or the statements. Confirmatory factor analysis will also work. What you're looking at is three things. You're looking at the exploratory factor analysis, the cumulative percentage of variation, that must be enough, and then you look at the factor loadings that will prove that the statements resides with the factors. So that's what you're looking at. What we look at here is exploratory factor analysis of latent constructs used for measuring public sector innovation performance in Malaysia. This is the article. So the key here is looking at exploratory factor analysis. Then what you're looking for in the methodology is you're looking for the exploratory factor analysis here. So in the methodology, you can see here that exploratory factor analysis was conducted in the pilot study and deployed by principal component analysis. As I said, principal axis factoring is better, but sometimes this is used in literature. Then what we're looking at is innovation capabilities. So we look at innovation capabilities, and this 5 constructs here, the cumulative percentage of variance for this 5 constructs is 78.5%, which is well above 60%. Okay, then the next thing we're looking for is the rotated factor loadings. That will show us how the statements or items loaded onto the factors or constructs. So this is the rotated factor loadings we're looking for. Look at this one here, the 0.85. It shows that question 2 is loading onto the first factor. Then question 4, question 5, question 6, question 7. You can see it does not load on the rest of the factors or constructs. It loads on the first construct. It's called component here. Then for the second construct, you can see it's questions 11, 12, 18, 19, 23, 24. And then for the third construct, this questions is loading all of them. And then the fourth one, there's only 3, question 27, 28, and 29. And the fifth one, only 2. Remember, that's a risk. And then you'll see there's questions like 22 and 21 that's not loading anywhere, so you will not use it. Then when we look at the Cronbach alpha, there's the Cronbach alpha for leadership, which is the first factor. And then it goes on people management, there's the Cronbach alpha strategy, rewards, and resources. So what we'll use is we will use this statements as it was validated with the factor loadings showing here. But the ones that's not loading, we leave out. So in our questionnaire, for the first construct, for instance, which is leadership, we'll use question 2, question 4, question 5, 6, and 7, and so on with the rest. In the next lesson, we will look at pre-testing the questionnaire or piloting the questionnaire, and what we can do is we can test the constructs for reliability and content validity. If you want to test validity of the constructs, you need a lot of respondents, so then it will not be a pilot, then you will rather do a full study, and then you can report 2 studies in your PhD.